The coffee shop was almost empty. It was late, nearly closing time, and Hyunwoo was tired. His feet hurt from standing all day. His back ached from carrying heavy boxes. He had been working double shifts for 3 weeks now, trying to save enough money to pay his bills. He wiped down the counter for the 3rd time that hour. There was nothing else to do. Most customers had already gone home. The orbital station outside the window looked quiet too. Small ships moved between the platforms like slow fireflies in the dark. Hyunwoo glanced at the corner table. The strange customer was still there. He had been sitting in that same spot for almost 4 hours now. He hadn't ordered anything. He just sat there staring out the window at the stars. The customer was tall, very tall. Even sitting down, he looked bigger than most people. He wore a long dark coat that covered most of his body. His face was partially hidden by a hood, but Hyunwoo could see pale skin and sharp features. There was something odd about him, something that made people uncomfortable. Other customers had given him strange looks before leaving. Hyunwoo didn't like seeing people sit alone like that. It reminded him of himself. He knew what loneliness felt like. He was far from home, too. His family lived on Earth, and he was up here on this station, working terrible hours just to survive. He made a decision. His manager would probably yell at him later, but he didn't care. He grabbed a cup and started making coffee. He used the good beans, not the cheap ones. He added just a little bit of cream and sugar, the way most people seem to like it. When the coffee was ready, he walked over to the corner table. His shoes squeaked on the clean floor. The tall customer didn't look up. He seemed lost in his own thoughts, watching the stars move slowly past the window. "Hey," Hyunwoo said softly. "I made you some coffee." On the house, the customer turned his head. Hyunwoo saw his eyes for the first time. They were golden. Not brown with gold flecks, but pure gold like melted metal. They were the most unusual eyes Hyunwoo had ever seen. "Why?" the customer asked. His voice was deep and rough, like he hadn't spoken in a long time. Hyunwoo shrugged. "You've been sitting here for hours. You look like you could use something warm. Plus you look sad. Really sad?" The golden eyes studied him for a long moment. Hyunwoo felt like he was being examined by something ancient and powerful, but he didn't look away. Finally, the customer reached out and took the cup. His hands were large with long fingers. There was something strange about them too, but Hyunwoo couldn't quite figure out what. "Thank you," the customer said. He sipped the coffee slowly. "It's good. I'm Hyunwoo," he said, pulling out the chair across from the stranger. His shift was basically over anyway. "Mind if I sit? It's been a long day and my feet are killing me." The customer looked surprised, like no one had asked to sit with him in a very long time. After a moment, he nodded. "I am Tae-yang." "Nice to meet you, Tae-yang. So what brings you to this coffee shop? We're not exactly the most exciting place on the station." Tae-yang was quiet for a while. He held the coffee cup in both hands like he was trying to absorb its warmth. "I needed somewhere quiet, somewhere no one would ask questions." "Well, you picked the right place then. This shop is dead most nights." Hyunwoo leaned back in his chair. "You're not from around here, are you? I mean, obviously you're not from Earth, but you seem like you're from far away, really far away." "Very far," Tae-yang agreed. He looked back out the window. "So far that I sometimes forget how to get back." There was something sad in the way he said it. Hyunwoo recognized that feeling. Homesickness, the kind that ate at you from the inside. "I get that," he said quietly. "I'm from Earth, Seoul actually. I came up here because I thought it would be exciting. Working on a space station, meeting aliens, seeing the galaxy." He laughed, but it sounded bitter. "Turns out it's just long hours and barely enough money to survive. I haven't been home in 2 years." Tae-yang turned to look at him again. Those golden eyes seemed softer now, less distant. "You are homesick, yeah, really homesick. But I can't afford to go back yet. Maybe next year." Hyunwoo rubbed his face. He was more tired than he thought. "What about you? Are you homesick too?" "I do not know if I have a home anymore," Tae-yang said slowly. "I left, I had to leave. There were too many responsibilities, too many demands. Everyone wanted something from me. Everyone needed me to make decisions, to fix problems, to be strong." His voice got quieter. "I was so tired. So I ran away." Hyunwoo nodded. He understood that too. Sometimes the weight of everything became too much. Sometimes you just wanted to disappear. Did it help? Running away? Tae-yang considered the question. "I do not know yet. I am still running." They sat in silence for a while. It wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was the kind of quiet that happens between two people who understand each other. Outside, the stars continued their slow dance across the black sky. "You know what helped me?" Hyunwoo said eventually. "Talking to people. Making small connections. Like this right now. Just sitting and having coffee with someone. It reminds me that I'm not completely alone in this huge galaxy." Taeyang looked down at his coffee cup. "It has been a long time since anyone offered me something without wanting something in return. Well, I don't want anything. Except maybe some company while I finish my shift. Being alone all the time gets old fast." For the first time, Taeyang smiled. It was a small smile, but it changed his whole face. He looked younger, less burdened. "I would like that." Hyunwoo grinned and stood up. "Great, let me make myself a cup too. You want anything else? We have some pastries left over. They're from yesterday, but they're still pretty good." "Yes, please," Taeyang said. As Hyunwoo walked back to the counter, he felt oddly happy. He had no idea who this strange person was or where he came from. But for the first time in months, he didn't feel quite so alone. Sometimes that was enough. Behind him, Taeyang watched the young human move around the coffee shop with easy movements. For the first time in centuries, the weight on his shoulders felt a little lighter. Maybe running away had been the right choice after all. Maybe this small moment of kindness was exactly what he needed. He drank his coffee slowly, savoring every sip. Outside, the galaxy continued to turn, full of problems and wars and demands. But in this small coffee shop, in this quiet moment, none of that mattered. Here he was just Taeyang. Not an emperor, not a ruler. Just someone drinking coffee with a new friend, and that felt like the greatest gift anyone had given him in 1,000 years. Taeyang came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Every evening around 8 o'clock, when the coffee shop started to get quiet, he would walk through the door. He always wore the same long dark coat. He always sat in the same corner table, and he always ordered the same thing, coffee with a little cream and sugar. Hyunwoo started looking forward to seeing him. His shifts didn't feel as long anymore. He had something to anticipate, someone to talk to. It was nice having a friend, even if that friend was a mysterious alien who rarely talked about himself. They talked about small things at first. The weather patterns on the station, the different types of ships that docked outside, the annoying customer who always complained about everything. Simple conversations that made the time pass easier, but slowly they started talking about bigger things. "What was your home like?" Hyunwoo asked one evening. They were alone in the shop. It was raining outside, or at least the station's weather system was making it rain. Water ran down the windows in small rivers. Taeyang was quiet for a long moment. "Beautiful," he finally said. "But also heavy. Everything there was heavy. The buildings, the traditions, the expectations." He paused. Even the air felt heavy. "That sounds exhausting." It was. Taeyang stirred his coffee slowly. "I had a position there, an important position. People depended on me for everything. Every decision I made affected millions of lives, sometimes billions. I could not make a single mistake. I could not show weakness. I could not be tired or sad or angry." He looked up at Hyunwoo. "I could not be a person, I had to be a symbol." Hyunwoo understood that feeling at least a little bit. "My father wanted me to take over his business," he said. "He built this big company from nothing. He worked his whole life to make it successful, and he wanted me to continue it." He shook his head. "But I didn't want that life. I didn't want to spend every day in meetings and making deals and worrying about profits. So I left, came up here. He hasn't talked to me since." "Do you regret leaving?" "Sometimes. When I'm really tired and lonely, yeah. But most days, no. I'm happier being poor and free than rich and trapped." Hyunwoo smiled. "Is that how you feel too?" Taeyang nodded slowly. "Yes, but I also feel guilty. The people I left behind, they still need someone. My responsibilities did not disappear just because I ran away from them. Maybe you needed to run away to remember how to be yourself again," Hyunwoo said. "Sometimes you have to break before you can fix yourself." Those golden eyes studied him carefully. "You are very wise for someone so young." Hyunwoo laughed. I'm not wise, I'm just tired and trying to figure things out like everyone else. Over the following weeks, their friendship grew stronger. Tai Yang started coming earlier in the day. Sometimes he would arrive in the afternoon and stay until closing. He never seemed to have anywhere else to be. Hyunwoo didn't mind. The company was nice. One day, Hyunwoo brought his music player to work. "You like music?" he asked Tai Yang. "I have not listened to music in a very long time," Tai Yang said. "Well, you're in for a treat. Humans make the best music in the galaxy. That's not me being biased, that's just a fact." Hyunwoo grinned and put in his earbuds. "Here, listen to this." He played an old song from Earth, something soft and sad but also hopeful. Taeyang closed his eyes and listened. When the song ended, he opened his eyes. They looked wet, like he might cry. "That was beautiful," he said quietly. "Right? Music is like magic. It makes you feel things you forgot you could feel." Hyunwoo saved the song to a new playlist. "I'll make you a collection. Songs for remembering how to feel." Taeyang smiled. That smile was coming more easily now. "I would like that very much." Hyunwoo's roommate Jiho didn't understand the friendship. He was a nervous person who worried about everything. He worked in station security, which made him even more paranoid than usual. "There's something wrong with your friend," Jiho said one night. They were in their small shared apartment eating cheap noodles for dinner. "He's too big, too quiet, and his eyes are weird. Have you noticed his eyes?" "Of course I noticed his eyes. They're golden. They're cool," Hyunwoo said. "They're not natural. And why does he wear that coat all the time? Even inside? What's he hiding? Maybe he's just cold. Or maybe he's self-conscious. Not everyone wants to show off their body, Jiho." Jiho frowned. "I'm serious. I ran his face through the security database." Hyunwoo stopped eating. "You did what? Why would you do that?" "Because I'm worried about you. You're spending all your time with this stranger and you don't know anything about him. He could be dangerous." "He's not dangerous. He's lonely and sad and trying to figure out his life. Just like me. Just like everyone on this station." "The database couldn't identify him," Jiho continued, ignoring the interruption. "That's weird, Hyunwoo. Everyone is in the database. Everyone. If he's not in there, it means he's using a fake identity or hiding something big. Or maybe your database just doesn't have information on every single person in the entire galaxy," Hyunwoo said. "Ever think of that?" Jiho looked like he wanted to argue more, but he stopped. "Just be careful, okay? I have a bad feeling about this." But Hyunwoo wasn't worried. He trusted Taeyang. Sure, his friend was mysterious. Sure, he had secrets. But everyone had secrets. That didn't make him dangerous. The next evening, Hyunwoo told Taeyang about a music festival happening on the entertainment level of the station. "It's mostly human music, but other species come too. It's supposed to be really fun. Want to go with me?" Taeyang hesitated. "I do not go to crowded places." "Come on, it'll be good for you. You can't hide in coffee shops forever." "When was the last time you did something fun? Something just for yourself?" Taeyang thought about it. "Centuries," he admitted. "Centuries, seriously? Then you definitely need to come. Life is too short to never have fun." Hyunwoo paused. "Well, I guess for you, life might not be short. You're what, a couple 100 years old?" "A bit more than that." "Okay, so life is long, which means you have even more reason to enjoy it. Come to the festival, please. I don't want to go alone and my roommate hates crowds." Finally, Taeyang agreed. "All right, I will go." The festival was loud and bright and chaotic. Music played from different stages. People danced and laughed and sang along. Food stalls filled the air with delicious smells. Lights flashed in every color. It was overwhelming in the best way. Hyunwoo watched Taeyang carefully. At first, his friend looked nervous, like he wanted to run away. But slowly, he started to relax. His shoulders dropped. His face softened. When a particularly good song started playing, Hyunwoo saw Taeyang's foot tapping to the rhythm. "You like it?" Hyunwoo shouted over the music. Taeyang nodded. For the first time since they met, he looked truly happy, not just calm or peaceful, but genuinely joyful. His golden eyes were bright and alive. They stayed until the festival ended. They ate fried food and drank sweet drinks and listened to music until their ears rang. When they finally left, both of them were smiling. "Thank you," Taeyang said as they walked back through the quiet station corridors. "I forgot what joy felt like. You reminded me." "Any time," Hyunwoo said. "That's what friends are for." As they walked, Hyunwoo felt proud. His mysterious friend was healing. Whatever pain or burden Taeyang carried, it was getting lighter. And Hyunwoo had helped with that. Just by being himself, just by offering friendship, he had made a difference in someone's life. He had no idea how big that difference really was. He had no idea that the person walking beside him was one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. He just knew that he had helped a friend find a reason to smile again, and for Hyunwoo, that was enough. Jiho burst into the coffee shop like a bomb had gone off. His face was pale. His hands were shaking. He looked terrified. "Hyunwoo!" he shouted. "Hyunwoo, we need to talk right now." Hyunwoo looked up from wiping down tables. The shop was empty except for Taeyang, who sat in his usual corner. "Jiho, what's wrong?" "You look like you've seen a ghost." "Worse than a ghost." Jiho grabbed Hyunwoo's arm and tried to pull him toward the back room. "We need to talk in private, now. Calm down. Just tell me what's going on." Jiho glanced at Taeyang nervously. Not in front of him. Taeyang set down his coffee cup slowly. He looked at Jiho with those golden eyes, and Jiho took a step back. "You discovered something," Taeyang said. It wasn't a question. I was just doing routine checks," Jiho stammered. "Part of my job. Security protocols. We have to verify identities of people who spend a lot of time on the station." "Jiho, what did you do?" Hyunwoo asked. "I ran a deeper scan. Used the military database this time, not just the civilian one." Jiho pulled out his tablet with shaking hands. "And I found something. Something impossible." He turned the tablet so Hyunwoo could see the screen. There was an image there. It showed a massive creature, something between a dragon and a serpent. It had scales that shimmered like stars. Its eyes were pure gold. Beneath the image were words in several languages. "What am I looking at?" Hyunwoo asked. "That's him," Jiho whispered. "That's your friend. That's Taeyang the Eternal, the Dragon Emperor of the Starfire Dominion. He rules over 10,000 worlds. He commands the largest military fleet in the known galaxy. He's one of the oldest and most powerful beings alive." Hyunwoo looked at the image. Then he looked at Taeyang. Then back at the image. "That's ridiculous. Taeyang is just a regular person. He drinks coffee and likes music, and he's been missing for 3 months," Jiho continued. "The entire galactic government has been searching for him. There are wars breaking out because he disappeared. Entire systems are falling apart without his leadership. And he's been sitting in your coffee shop the whole time." Hyunwoo's brain felt slow. This didn't make sense. Taeyang was his friend. His quiet, sad friend who just needed someone to talk to. He couldn't be an emperor. He couldn't be this legendary creature on the screen. But when he looked at Taeyang again, he saw something different. The way Taeyang held himself. The way people naturally avoided him. Sensing something powerful and dangerous. Those strange golden eyes that seemed to see everything. "Is it true?" Hyunwoo asked quietly. Before Taeyang could answer, the coffee shop doors exploded inward. Not literally, but they flew open so hard they slammed against the walls. Soldiers poured in. They wore armor that gleamed like liquid metal. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. And leading them was a tall woman with sharp features and cold eyes. "Nobody move," she commanded. Her voice was like ice and steel. "This establishment is now under military jurisdiction." More soldiers came in. They surrounded the coffee shop. Hyunwoo counted at least 20 of them. They all pointed their weapons at Taeyang, who hadn't moved from his seat. The woman walked forward slowly. Her armor made soft clicking sounds with each step. "Your Eternal Majesty," she said. Her voice was respectful but also angry. "You have been found. You will return to your throne immediately." "Admiral Seokjin," Taeyang said calmly. "I should have known you would find me eventually." 3 months, Seokjin said. Her jaw was tight. 3 months we searched every corner of the galaxy. 3 months while your empire fell into chaos. 3 months while millions died in wars that you could have prevented. And you were here. Drinking coffee? Hyunwoo's mind was racing. Emperor, soldiers, wars, this was insane. Wait, everyone just calm down, he said. Can someone please explain what's happening? Seokjin looked at him like he was an annoying insect. This is not your concern, human. Step aside. He's my friend, Hyunwoo said. He didn't move. You can't just break into my shop and threaten him. Your friend? Seokjin laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You have no idea what you're talking about. This is not your friend. This is Emperor Tae-yang, ruler of the Starfire Dominion. He is not someone you drink coffee with. He is not someone you can know. Something in Tae-yang's expression changed. The calm mask he always wore started to crack. His body began to shift. The disguise he had been wearing fell away like water. Scales emerged on his skin, shimmering and beautiful. His body grew larger, taller, more imposing. Wings unfurled from his back, huge and magnificent. His face became more angular, more draconic. The golden eyes now glowed with inner fire. Everyone in the shop took a step back. Everyone except Hyunwoo. He stood frozen, staring at his friend who was now revealed as something ancient and powerful and absolutely terrifying. Stars above, Jiho whispered. He had pressed himself against the wall, looking like he might faint. The Dragon Emperor stood in the middle of the coffee shop, too large for the small space. His head nearly touched the ceiling. His presence filled the room like pressure before a storm. This was not the sad, lonely person Hyunwoo had befriended. This was something else, something that could destroy planets with a thought. But when those golden eyes looked at Hyunwoo, they were still sad, still tired, still the eyes of someone who was lost and hurting. I am sorry, Tae-yang said. His voice was deeper now, resonating like thunder. I did not mean to deceive you. I just wanted to be someone else for a while. Someone normal. You lied to me, Hyunwoo said. His voice shook. He didn't know what he was feeling. Betrayal, fear, confusion, all of it at once. I did not lie. I simply did not tell you everything. Everything I said to you was true. I was lonely. I was running from responsibilities. I needed a friend. Those things were real. You're an emperor. You rule thousands of worlds. And you let me think you were just some random traveler? Because that is what I wanted to be. Just for a little while, I wanted to be someone who could sit in a coffee shop and talk about simple things. Someone who could go to a music festival and feel joy. You gave me that. You treated me like a person, not a symbol. Not a weapon. Not a god. Just a person. Seokjin interrupted them. This is very touching, but we don't have time for sentiment. Your Majesty, your empire needs you. The borderlands are in chaos. The trade guilds are fighting each other. 3 systems have declared independence. Every day you stay away, more people die. And if I return exhausted and broken, how many more will die because I make poor decisions? Tae-yang shot back. How many will die because I no longer have the strength to lead wisely? Then you should not have left in the first place. I left because I was already broken. The two of them stared at each other. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Hyunwoo realized that everyone was waiting to see what would happen. The soldiers had their weapons ready. Jiho looked ready to run. Seokjin looked like she wanted to drag Tae-yang back by force, and Hyunwoo stood between them all. Just a simple coffee shop worker, who was way out of his depth. But he knew his friend. The real Tae-yang, not just the emperor. He knew what loneliness looked like. He knew what it felt like to be crushed under expectations. He knew what it meant to run away from a life that was killing you. So he stepped forward, directly in front of Tae-yang, blocking the soldier's path. Lower your weapons, Hyunwoo said. Everyone stared at him like he was insane. Lower your weapons, he repeated, louder this time. You're not taking him anywhere until we talk about this properly. Like civilized people, not with guns pointed at everyone. Seokjin's expression was somewhere between shock and rage. You dare give me orders? You are nobody, nothing. A simple worker with no authority, no rank, no importance whatsoever. Maybe, Hyunwoo agreed. But I'm also his friend. And friends don't let friends get dragged away by soldiers without at least standing up for them. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then surprisingly, Tae-yang laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the windows. You see, Admiral? This is why I stayed. This simple worker, as you call him, has more courage than most of my generals. He stands up for what is right, even when it is dangerous, even when it is foolish. It's definitely foolish, Jiho muttered from the corner. Seokjin slowly lowered her weapon. The other soldiers did the same. Fine, she said. We will talk. But this discussion ends with you returning to your throne, Your Majesty. One way or another. Hyunwoo let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. He looked up at the Dragon Emperor, at his friend, and saw gratitude in those golden eyes. Whatever happened next, at least they would face it together. The Galactic Council chamber was the most impressive room Hyunwoo had ever seen. The ceiling stretched up so high it disappeared into darkness. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that shifted colors slowly, moving through every shade imaginable. Thousands of seats rose in circular tiers, and most of them were filled with representatives from different worlds and species. Hyunwoo felt very small and very human. He wore his best clothes, which were still just cheap station clothes. Everyone else wore elaborate robes or armor or things he didn't have words for. They all looked important and powerful. He looked like a coffee shop worker because that's exactly what he was. Jiho sat next to him, looking even more nervous. "I can't believe we're here," he whispered. "This is the Galactic Council. Species come here to declare wars, to sign treaties, to decide the fate of billions. And we're here because you made friends with an emperor." "I didn't know he was an emperor," Hyunwoo whispered back. "That doesn't make this less insane." In the center of the chamber stood Taiyang. He was in his true form now, massive and magnificent. His scales caught the light and threw it back in patterns that hurt to look at directly. His wings were folded against his back, but even folded they were enormous. He looked like something from an ancient legend, something that shouldn't exist in the real world. Admiral Seok-jin stood to one side, her face hard as stone. On the other side was a woman Hyunwoo didn't recognize. She wore white robes and had a pleasant smile that somehow made Hyunwoo more nervous than Seok-jin's anger. Jiho had whispered that her name was Da-eun and she was one of the most powerful politicians in the galaxy. "This hearing will now begin," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Emperor Taeyang the Eternal stands accused of abandoning his throne and neglecting his duties to his empire. This council will hear testimony and determine appropriate consequences." Appropriate consequences. That sounded bad. Hyunwoo's stomach twisted with worry. Seok-jin spoke first. She presented evidence of the chaos that had erupted during Taeyang's absence. Images appeared in the air showing burning cities and broken ships and people crying. Numbers scrolled past showing death tolls and economic damage and systems falling into anarchy. 3 major wars erupted in the borderlands, Seok-jin said. Her voice was cold and factual. Without the emperor's presence to maintain order, old rivalries exploded into violence. The trade guilds began fighting over territories. The outer colonies declared independence and started attacking each other. Over 15 million sentient beings died in these conflicts. 15 million deaths that could have been prevented if the emperor had been present to exercise his authority. The chamber was silent. Hyunwoo felt sick. 15 million people. That number was too big to really understand, but he tried. 15 million lives. 15 million families destroyed, because Taeyang had run away. And where was the emperor during this crisis? Seok-jin continued. He was on a human station, drinking coffee, listening to music, pretending to be someone ordinary while his empire burned. Murmurs ran through the crowd. Hyunwoo could feel their anger and disapproval pressing down on him. He wanted to disappear. He wanted to be anywhere but here. Then Da-eun spoke. Her voice was sweet like honey, but something about it made Hyunwoo's skin crawl. "The emperor's actions show a fundamental failure of character," she said. "A true leader does not abandon his people in their time of need. A true leader does not put his own comfort above the lives of millions. Perhaps it is time to consider whether Emperor Taeyang is still fit to rule." The murmurs got louder. Some people were nodding. They agreed with her. Hyunwoo realized what was happening. They weren't just going to punish Taeyang. They were going to remove him from power completely. Taeyang stood silent through all of it. His golden eyes were fixed on some point in the distance. He didn't defend himself. He didn't argue. He just stood there and accepted their judgment. "Does the emperor have anything to say in his defense?" the announcer's voice asked. "No," Taeyang said simply. "Everything they have said is true. I abandoned my duties. People died because of my absence. I have no excuse that would make that acceptable." The chamber erupted in voices. Some were calling for his removal. Others were demanding harsher punishments. It was chaos. Hyunwoo felt something hot and angry building in his chest. This wasn't right. They didn't understand. They didn't know what Taeyang had been going through. They just saw the results, not the person behind them. He stood up. His chair scraped loudly against the floor. In the huge chamber, the sound was tiny, but somehow people noticed. Voices started to quiet. Eyes turned toward him. "I want to speak," Hyunwoo said. His voice shook, but he said it anyway. The chamber went completely silent. Dayun looked at him with raised eyebrows. "And who are you?" "My name is Hyunwoo. I'm the human who served coffee to the emperor. I want to testify." "This is highly irregular," someone said from the crowd. "Let him speak," Taeyang said. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the entire chamber. "If I am to be judged, let all evidence be heard." The announcer was quiet for a moment. Then, "The human may speak." Hyunwoo's legs felt weak as he walked down to the center of the chamber. He had never spoken in front of this many people before. He had never done anything important before. But he had to do this. He had to make them understand. "You're all talking about the emperor like he's just a symbol or a tool," Hyunwoo began. His voice echoed strangely in the huge space. "But he's not. He's a person, a real person with feelings and limits and breaking points." "Sentiment is not relevant here," Da-un said. "We are discussing leadership and responsibility." "No, you're discussing numbers and politics. You're not discussing the fact that you all pushed one person to carry the weight of an entire empire until he broke under the pressure." Hyunwoo looked up at the thousands of faces watching him. How long did he rule? Centuries? Millennia? How many wars did he stop? How many problems did he solve? How many times did he make impossible decisions that saved billions of lives? He pointed at the images of destruction still floating in the air. "Yes, this is terrible. 15 million people died, and that's a tragedy. But how many billions died before he stopped their wars? How many disasters did he prevent? You all got used to having him fix everything. You forgot he was a person who could get tired and hurt and overwhelmed." "This does not excuse abandoning his duties," Seok-jin said. "No, it doesn't," Hyunwoo agreed. "But let me tell you what I saw. I saw someone so tired he could barely function. Someone who forgot what happiness felt like. Someone who had given everything to everyone else until there was nothing left of himself." He looked at Taeyang. "I saw someone who was dying inside and nobody noticed because they were too busy demanding more from him." Da-un's smile was gone now. "What are you suggesting? That we should pity the emperor? That we should ignore his failures because he was tired?" "I'm suggesting that maybe the system is broken," Hyunwoo said. "You put all the power and all the responsibility on one person. You made him into a god, and then you're surprised when he can't be perfect all the time. That's not his failure. That's your failure." The chamber erupted again. Some people were angry. Some were thoughtful. Hyunwoo saw others nodding slowly like they had never thought about it that way before. "You're human," someone shouted from the crowd. "What do you know about ruling empires?" "I know about being human," Hyunwoo shouted back. "I know what it's like to feel small and powerless. I know what it's like to work yourself to death just to survive. And I know what it's like when someone shows you a small kindness that reminds you why life is worth living." He turned to look at the council members. "That's what I did for him. I didn't know he was an emperor. I just knew he was lonely and sad, so I gave him coffee and friendship. And you know what? It helped. He was healing. He was remembering how to be a person again. Until we found him," Seok-jin said quietly. There was something different in her voice now. Not quite regret, but close. "Yes," Hyunwoo said. "Until you found him and dragged him back before he was ready. So now you have a choice. You can punish him and remove him and replace him with someone else who will eventually break the same way. Or you can change the system. Share the power. Let him be human sometimes. Give him support instead of just demands." Dayun stood up. "This is absurd. We cannot restructure an entire empire because one human thinks the emperor deserves sympathy. Why not? Hyunwoo asked. If the system breaks people, then the system needs to change. That's basic logic. Even I know that, and I'm just a coffee shop worker. Taeyang spoke then, his voice filling the chamber. He is right. Everyone turned to look at him. I have ruled for 3,000 years. I have made countless decisions. I have stopped wars and saved worlds. And I did it alone because I thought that was my duty. But Hyunwoo showed me something important. He showed me that accepting help is not weakness, that admitting you need rest is not failure, that being a person does not make you less of a leader. He looked around at all the faces watching him. I will return to my throne, but not as I was before. I will not carry this burden alone anymore. I will accept advisors. I will delegate authority. I will be an emperor who is also allowed to be a person. The chamber was silent. Then slowly, very slowly, people started to talk. Not arg 6 months later. Hyunwoo was wiping down the counter of the coffee shop when the door opened. He looked up and couldn't help but smile. Your usual? He asked. Taeyang walked in wearing his humanoid disguise again. He looked different than before, though. Less tired. Less burdened. His golden eyes were brighter and he smiled more easily. Yes, please. Coffee with a little cream and sugar. Coming right up. It had been a strange 6 months. After the council hearing, everything had changed. Taeyang had returned to his throne, but not alone. He had created something called the Council of Renewal. It was made up of representatives from different worlds who helped make decisions and share the burden of leadership. Admiral Seok-jin had been appointed as the military advisor. She still looked stern all the time, but she had privately thanked Hyunwoo for his testimony. You made him remember that asking for help is not weakness, she had said. I should have seen that he was breaking. I should have helped. But I was so focused on duty that I forgot about the person. Do-eun had opposed the changes at first, but even she eventually agreed that sharing power made sense. Some people said she was just trying to get closer to the throne by being part of the new council. Hyunwoo didn't care about politics. He just cared that his friend was doing better. The strangest part of the whole thing was what happened to Hyunwoo himself. Taeyang had insisted on giving him a position. Imperial Conscience, they called it. It was a fancy title for a simple job. Be honest with the emperor. Tell him when he was wrong. Remind him to rest. Keep him connected to ordinary people and ordinary problems. Hyunwoo had tried to refuse. I'm not qualified for this. I'm just a coffee shop worker. Exactly, Taeyang had said. You see things that courtiers and politicians cannot see. You understand what matters to common people. You are not afraid to tell me the truth. That makes you more qualified than most of my advisors. The job paid well, really well. Hyunwoo had been able to pay off all his debts. He had sent money home to his family. His father had actually called him, which was the first time they had spoken in 2 years. It had been awkward, but it was a start. But Hyunwoo still kept his job at the coffee shop. He worked 3 shifts a week just because he wanted to. He liked making coffee. He liked the simple routine of it. And he liked being in a place where people just saw him as Hyunwoo the barista, not Hyunwoo the imperial conscience. He brought Taeyang his coffee and sat down across from him. The shop was quiet. It was mid-afternoon, the slow time between lunch and dinner. They had the place almost to themselves. How are things? Hyunwoo asked. It was their ritual now. Whenever Taeyang visited, they started with this question. Better, Taeyang said. He sipped his coffee slowly, savoring it. The borderland wars have ended. We negotiated peace treaties that actually seem to be holding. The trade guilds have agreed to a new charter that reduces conflicts. The outer colonies are talking about rejoining the empire, but on terms that give them more autonomy. That's good news. It is. And it only took 6 months instead of the years it would have taken if I had tried to handle everything alone. Taeyang smiled. The Council of Renewal is working well. Do-eun is still trying to manipulate things to her advantage, but Seok-jin keeps her in check, and the other representatives are bringing up issues I would never have known about. Like what? Like the fact that 17 systems have inadequate medical facilities. Like the fact that trade routes are inefficient because nobody bothered to update them in 3 centuries. Like the fact that there are educational disparities that could be fixed with simple policy changes. Taeyang shook his head. I was so focused on wars and big disasters that I missed all these smaller problems. Problems that affect millions of people every day. You can't be everywhere and see everything, Hyunwoo said. That's why you have help now. Yes, thanks to you. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Outside the window, ships moved through space in their endless dance. The station continued its normal routine. Life went on, ordinary and extraordinary at the same time. I went home last month, Hyunwoo said eventually. To Earth, to Seoul, I visited my family. How was it? Weird, good weird mostly. My dad is still disappointed that I'm not running his business, but he's less angry about it. My mom cried a lot. My little sister kept asking me questions about aliens and space emperors. Hyunwoo laughed. She wants to work on a space station too now. I think I accidentally made her dream of leaving Earth. Is that a bad thing? No, I don't think so. Dreams are important, even when they take you far from home. Hyunwoo looked at his friend. You taught me that. You traveled across the galaxy to find yourself again. That's pretty brave. I ran away, Taeyang corrected. You took a break. There's a difference. And you came back stronger because of it. Taeyang considered this. Perhaps you were right. I used to think that strength meant never stopping, never resting, never showing weakness. But now I understand that real strength includes knowing when to step back, when to ask for help, when to admit that you cannot do everything alone. Exactly. And that's why the Empire is doing better now. Because you're not trying to be a perfect symbol anymore. You're just trying to be a good leader. Those are different things. The door opened again. This time it was Min-soo, a young diplomat who worked with the Council of Renewal. He looked excited about something. Your Majesty, Hyunwoo, I've been looking everywhere for you. We have news from the outer colonies. They've agreed to the reunification proposal, but they want to add a clause about local governance. We need your input. Taeyang stood up, but he didn't rush. He finished his coffee first. We will be there shortly. Give us 10 minutes. Min-soo looked surprised but nodded and left. You've changed, Hyunwoo observed. The old you would have jumped up immediately and run to handle the crisis. It is not a crisis. It is a negotiation that will happen whether I arrive in 10 minutes or immediately. And these 10 minutes with you are important too. Taeyang looked at him seriously. You taught me that, Hyunwoo. That small moments matter. That friendships matter. That taking time to drink coffee and talk with someone you care about is not a waste of time. It is what makes life worth living. Hyunwoo felt his chest get tight with emotion. I just gave you coffee and listened to you talk. You gave me much more than that. You gave me back my humanity. Or personhood, I suppose, since I am not technically human. Taeyang smiled. You reminded me that I am more than my position, more than my duties. You reminded me that I am allowed to have friends and feel joy and rest when I am tired. That gift is worth more than all the treasures in my empire. Stop, you're going to make me cry in my own coffee shop, Hyunwoo said, but he was smiling. Go handle your negotiation. I'll still be here when you're done. Taeyang nodded and headed toward the door, but he paused and looked back. Same time next week? Of course. I'll even try that new roast we got in. I think you'll like it. I look forward to it. After Taeyang left, Hyunwoo sat alone in the quiet shop. Jiho would tell him later that he was crazy for not taking advantage of his position, that he could be living in luxury instead of working in a coffee shop, that he could be important and powerful instead of just ordinary. But Jiho didn't understand. This was exactly where Hyunwoo wanted to be, making coffee, talking with friends, living a simple life that made him happy. He had seen what happened when people chased power and importance. He had seen how it could break even the strongest person. No, this was better. This was real. A new customer walked in. She looked nervous and alone, sitting in the corner and staring out at the stars. She looked exactly like Taeyang had looked 6 months ago, lost and tired and lonely. Hyunwoo grabbed a cup and started making coffee. He used the good beans, added just a little cream and sugar. When it was ready, he walked over to the corner table. Hey, he said gently, you look like you could use something warm. On the house. The customer looked up at him with surprised eyes. Why? Hyunwoo smiled. Because everyone deserves a little kindness. And because you look like you're far from home and could use a friend. She took the coffee carefully like it was something precious. Thank you. I'm Hyunwoo. Mind if I sit for a minute? It's been a slow day. She nodded and Hyunwoo sat down across from her. He didn't know who she was or where she came from. Maybe she was an ordinary traveler. Maybe she was someone important running from responsibilities. It didn't matter. What mattered was that she was alone, and Hyunwoo could offer her the same thing he had offered Taeyang, a cup of coffee. A friendly ear. A reminder that even in this huge galaxy, small acts of kindness still mattered. Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance. Ships came and went. The empire continued to grow and change. Wars were fought and ended. Treaties were signed. Civilizations rose and fell. But inside this small coffee shop, something simpler and more important was happening. Two people were sharing a moment of connection, finding comfort in each other's company, reminding each other that they were not alone. And somewhere in the imperial palace, a dragon emperor sat in his throne room and smiled. He had just received a message from Hyunwoo. It was simple. Made a new friend today. Gave her coffee. I think she needed